All right, it looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. We are live here with Master Dan Jansa from Eagle. What is Eagle? What's your full name? Oh, are you? We might have gotten. Did we lose you? Oh, looks like we lost Master Jansa. So we'll just wait for him to get back here.
There you are.
There we go. All right. We got, that happens. Yay, technology. Cool. I was just saying, thank you to everyone for joining us. We got Master Dan Jansa here from, is it Eagle Academy of Karate or
Eagle
Martial
Academy
Arts?
of Martial Arts. Yep.
Martial Arts. Awesome. And there's two locations. So what location are you in right now?
Right now, I'm in the Aurora School, which is the one that Master Tracy runs. And then my school is about 7 miles north of here in a town called Warrenville.
Okay. And you said they're doing some stunt work today?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. When I did the interview with Master Tracy, she was saying that your son Brian had been doing some stunt work with people in the area.
Yeah, he's loving it. They were just this past weekend, they were doing the guy that does the training rented one of those hoists. So they were doing high falls from like 35 feet up. So
wow.
yeah, he's really into it.
Is that one of those where they can pull you up real fast from the ground too?
I don't think they had that set up. They were doing just the fall, so they have the big air
Okay.
crash pad. So, but they do have a couple weeks ago they were practicing the pulls where, let's say you get kicked or you get punched or shot and they yank you back at,
right.
So they were doing that a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, that's cool stuff. I actually Master Angel Salona from Maryland found a place where they have it in the water where one person jumps on it and the other person gets
yeah, projects you up in the air.
Yeah. I love anything like that. So thanks again for joining. Typically what we do with the interviews is start with just kind of an overview of how you got your start in the martial arts.
Okay. Well, I started, the martial arts was something that I was just always kind of curious about when I was in, grade school and probably my first year of high school. It was just kind of a curiosity, something I wanted to do, but at that time it wasn't readily available. But what happened was I was on the swim team in high school, and we would have our swim practice. And after practice was over, I would go into the gym and sit up in the balcony and watch. And there happened to be a judo class going on in there. So I would sit and watch the judo class. And one of my friends from school was taking the class. And this went on for months and months and months. And then one day at school, he came up to me. He played high school football also. He got injured playing football. He couldn't go to judo any longer. So he walked up to me at school, handed me his judo uniform and said, "I can't go anymore. You've been watching me in class. You take my uniform and train and go for me." And so that's kind of how I got started. I started in judo, did it for years and years and years, and gradually added more things to it. And it's been a great journey.
Awesome. And so how long did you actively train in judo?
I trained in judo for actively 10 years or so. And then I stopped taking lessons, and I just continued to teach it in class and practice with people and stuff.
Sure. Once you stopped with judo, was there a time where you didn't train in the martial arts? And
No. While I was taking judo, at some point I added taekwondo,
Okay.
I was training and teaching at a at a YMCA, and they had a taekwondo class going on, and occasionally the instructors would share. So sometimes the judo class would go to the taekwondo class, sometimes the taekwondo class would come to our class. So they would share skills and ideas and stuff like that. And I got to know the taekwondo instructors, and they invited me to their program, and I started doing that for quite a number of years. Um, had a great time. I started, and they because I was teaching the judo at the YMCA, they started kind of coaching me on how to teach class, you know, what to watch for, what did you notice over here, and stuff like that. So I got an early start on kind of the teaching and what to watch for and proper technique and stuff like that. And then when I got into college, they didn't have a taekwondo program, but they had a judo and a Tang Soo Do program. So I started taking judo there, eventually joined the Tang Soo Do classes, and the rest is kind of history. The original instructor, the original Tang Soo Do instructor moved away. His chief instructor took over, and then he started introducing the Hapkido into the program also. So I had the judo, I had the taekwondo, and then I was actively pursuing the Tang Soo Do and the Hapkido. So it's been a great time.
Wow. Now, I did see in doing some research that you're originally from Pennsylvania. Did you
Yes.
start your training in Pennsylvania?
No, actually, I didn't start it until I moved to Missouri, which was I was junior high school, freshman, no, sophomore year in high school, somewhere in that area. And it's funny because I lived on the East Coast, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I actually lived in Waterbury, Connecticut, which obviously was where Grandmaster Bodwin was, and unfortunately I wasn't aware of it then, and because I would have gotten an even earlier start. But
Right.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with Master Vittori and Master Joe Skoda, and it turned they lived in the same neighborhood growing up, right
Okay.
outside of Philly. So and they had no idea, you know, until many years ago. But
Yeah.
just kind of funny, you were, like you said, a step or two away.
Yeah, it's such a small world, really.
So it sounds like you were, for me, Master Gama was my instructor, so I was very lucky to be exposed to a lot of things early, whether it was Hapkido, grappling,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you had that opportunity as well very early, and
Yeah. Oh,
you,
definitely. Yeah, definitely, you know, gives you I think a really well-rounded perspective on the martial arts and stuff.
gotcha. So once you started in Hapkido, I'm assuming, well, actually, I know that you weren't originally with Dojanim Jihan J.
Right,
What
right.
style of Hapkido did you start in?
It was called Wolgate Kwan. So in the Chicago area, there's a number of Hapkido masters. I trained under Master Gato Chang,
Okay.
who was one in the suburbs out here. So I did that for quite a number of years. And you know, I kind of dabbled a little bit. I would go to, because Kwang Sik Myung came to Chicago quite often, so I would go into the city and do his weekend seminars. Bang Suhan came occasionally. In fact, Do Jin was here a couple of times. We did some long weekend seminars with him, but it wasn't until quite a number of years later that I finally got, you know, tied in with Do Jin.
Gotcha. Real quick, I just want to say hi again to everyone watching. If anyone has any questions for Master Jansa, feel free to say hello and ask a question. Got a couple people saying hi. Tom Lyons, Lindsay Dudgeon, Pam Russell, Miranda Perkins. So I know
Cool.
Pam.
I didn't realize this was a live.
Yeah, we are live.
Oh, cool.
It's funny. I had Zoom for about a month, and I was doing interviews, and I saw Master Setianto did his interview with Master Enoshita through Zoom. I
Mm.
was like, hey, I have Zoom. So we've been doing the interviews live on Facebook, so people can follow along.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were teaching from early on. When did you decide to move out on your own and start your own club?
Uh, while I was in college, um, I taught at several park districts, YMCA's and stuff like that. And I did that all through college and I for quite a number of years after. And it wasn't until it was actually kind of a suggestion from some of my students say, hey, why don't you open up your own school? And I eventually took the plunge. I went into business. I opened up a school with a couple of students, and that ran for. And at the same time, I kept my park district programs going. Turned those over to some of my senior students and stuff like that. And the school end of it, initially was it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I was very, shall we say, pig-headed. Grandmaster Shin has always called me a dinosaur, but I was not. The school that I came from was tied in with some of the like EFC and places like that, and the instructor that I had, I felt had some. I don't want to say poor choices, but he ran his school like or like he should. He ran it like a business, but he didn't have any leeway. There was no slack. If you were late on your payments, it was this and stuff like that. And I felt that was coming from him and from his business contacts. And so when I opened up my school, I didn't want to have that hardcore, what I felt was like a negative image. And so I was a lot more relaxed, and I didn't join a business organization. I tried to run everything by myself. And so I struggled for about 5 years, not making any progress. And at the end of 5 years, the partners that I had enough. And that's when I got tied in with Mary Tracy and a couple of other people. And we opened up school, connected with EFC, got into the networking with Master Godwin and so many of these other great role models and business, mentors that I managed to keep things going and grow and so forth. So now we have the 2 schools and the park districts and so forth.
It's funny to hear you say that, because when I think of you and Master Tracy, I probably saw Master Tracy at more of the mass trainings and the
Right.
business conventions than I saw at World Tang Soo Do. So to hear back, many years ago that you were kind of obstinate and wanted to push away from that, it just shows that sometimes we have to grow a little bit and be like, okay, you
Absolutely.
guys are right. We have to make our mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So around that time, obviously Mary started training. Was that like 5 years where you had the studio with the partners? Was that when she started in the martial arts, or?
No, actually she started when I was still teaching at the park districts.
Okay.
It's funny because her brother was a student of mine. Her brother was one of my black belts, and he finally kind of talked her into coming and trying the class. Unfortunately, she came to the last class of the session instead of the first class of the session. And so we were finishing up the end of the night with all the students throwing each other. We were doing the hapkido and the falling and stuff like that. And she had come with a friend she came by herself the first night. and it was kind of a shock, to see everybody throwing each other around. I had some really big guys and some smaller ladies, and these smaller ladies were getting tossed around by the big guys. They were throwing the big guys, and so she kind of got spooked and was trying to sneak out the door. I kind of slowed her down a little bit, said, "Oh, no, this is the end of the session, come back." Fortunately, she went home. She talked to her brother. He convinced her that that's not how everything starts. And she came back and has been doing it ever since. So.
Yeah, I was just saying, you can often find her rolling or throwing people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So she obviously took to it at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
In that, and you can correct me on the time frame. What led you to joining the World Tang Soo Do Association?
Well, that was something we joined in 1990, but for years prior to that, when I was with my other instructor, Chicagoland, the Illinois or Chicagoland area has a number of Tang Soo Do schools. They're all freestanding, independent. They're not affiliated with anybody. And we were the same way for the entire time that I was training there. And for years, I was kind of prodding my instructors, "Hey, listen, why don't we get affiliated with somebody?" And there was myself and one of the other instructors at the school said, I will pursue the Tang Soo Do. The other gentleman said he'll pursue the Hapkido. We'll get affiliated with a great organization and see if we can grow from there. And my instructor said, "Fine, you guys can do that, but I'm not going to be part of it." So we kind of hung in there for years. And I had contacted Grandmaster Shin about 5 years before 1990. So 1985 or so, I had contacted him to get information about the association. He had sent me some material and so forth. But I didn't do anything until 1990. I said, "This is enough. I think we needed to have some connection, have somebody else to be answerable to, and have other students, other instructors that we can affiliate with and share." So in 1990, we joined the association, and it's been the best choice that we've made. I mean, I'm sorry that we hadn't done it a lot sooner, but I'm glad that we did.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess now 30 years later.
Yeah, definitely.
I obviously know you've been in the martial arts for a long time, but when I was doing my research, I found that you started in 1970. So it's kind of amazing that you're 50 years of martial arts training. Could you think of some of the differences between, when you started then to now? Obviously we're talking on Zoom.
Yeah.
Technology is one of them.
Yeah, definitely, a big change in the technology, but probably the biggest, I mean, I've had a lot of great instructors, both Tang Soo Do, Hapkido, Judo, and so forth. But back in those days, it's probably like everybody has heard, it was a lot more hardcore. It wasn't for, until quite a few years until we finally started getting younger students in. Early days, it was young guys, it was college guys, some women, but not a lot. And it was a lot more hardcore. Contact was accepted.
Encouraged.
Yeah. In a lot of cases, heavily encouraged, and not that that's right or wrong, but I think you learn in a different way. So I think that was probably the biggest change. Things have adjusted a lot now to you still, the end result, I think, is the same. In those early days, you had a hardcore black belt. Nowadays you have a hardcore black belt who's gotten this black belt kind of in a different way. We probably accommodate students a little bit more. We're not you know, again, in the early days, you would kind of advertise to the students, yeah, 1 in 100, 1 in 500 students might get their black belt. Well, we don't do that anymore, because if anybody's willing to work and dedicate and persevere, why can't they get a black belt? You know, and we don't have to necessarily beat them up to get them there. You know, we can train them in a different way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of we can give you what you want, right? If you want that hard training, you can absolutely get that.
Right. Absolutely.
Uh, luckily, our training and the way we teach has evolved from back then.
Sure.
Even the 20 years that I've been in the martial arts, I think teaching has evolved, and especially in the World Tang Soo Do Association, the instructors, in my opinion, just get better and better.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, with talking with World Tang Soo Do Association, you can't talk about it without mentioning Grandmaster Shin. Could you share some memories on, looking back on the many times you got a chance to be around him?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we were fortunate. We felt that we were very fortunate that, you know, when we would do our regional events, we were fortunate to have Grandmaster Shin here pretty much once a year to one of our events, whether it be in Illinois or Michigan or whatever. And again, I was fortunate to be one of the people that would pick him up at the airport, cart him around, you know, take care of him at the hotel and stuff like that. And so, you know, there's a lot of close contact with Grandmaster Shin, and he was just such a fabulous person to be around. You know, I think one of the things that stands out with Grandmaster Shin was, you know, we would have our weekend event, but taking him to the airport Sunday afternoon on his way home was probably the best time, because back in those earlier days, we didn't have to leave him at the gate. We could take him all the way, you know, to the gate for his plane. We could sit and have dinner with him and talk for an hour, and it was just so many great. It's not my stories, but great stories from Grandmaster Shin. You know, travels that he was on, and some of the experience that he's had, and so forth. So it was just really the more of the personal time that we had with Grandmaster Shin. But one of the funny times was we were actually at our Saturday evening after our tournament. We usually had a social time. We would do a dinner or whatever, and Grandmaster Shin was talking to us before the dinner, and he was telling us about some of his experiences. And one of the times that he was traveling, and he was I think he was in South America, and he was having trouble communicating with the students, and he wanted to figure out a way to break the ice, because they all seemed so serious. And this was at their social time also, and he had a bottle of something to drink, and in order to break the ice, he peeled the label off of the bottle and stuck it on his forehead, and it just broke the ice. It just, everybody started laughing, and you know, everybody relaxed, and then he could talk to them and share and have a good time. So he was just such an incredibly great person. I mean, not only the martial arts, but in his, you know, his communications, and he was just such a great leader. So.
That's great. That's a great story. When you said that, it made me, one year at Region 8 Black Belt Camp, we had plenty of time after our talks, and so he decided he was going to watch Mr. Bean with everyone. So I guess Mr. When you said that, it made me think of like the physical comedy of him. And so we watched Mr. Bean with him for 30 minutes, and he was
really?
hysterically laughing the whole time. So he could be quiet, but he had a great sense of humor.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it shows that by being able to break the ice with people that he couldn't necessarily communicate with through language.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um and looking, it's funny, whenever I do these interviews with masters that have been around for a while, there's masters profiles from the World Tang Soo Do Association from many moons ago that are still out there, and a profile from, I think it was 2001. You said that you stay in the association for the family you've built inside of it. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but have you had the opportunity to do much traveling to visit different studios?
Yeah, we have. We've done a number of regional events throughout the United States. We've been to. I mean, I've been to Philadelphia a number of times. I've been to Master Godwin's for things going on at his schools and opening grand openings for his new schools and so
Yes.
forth.
That was a great event.
Oh, I was, yeah, yeah. Um, we've been to Connecticut. I've been to Texas. So quite a number of places. And then a couple of years ago, we were invited by Master Marco to Sweden. So we went to Sweden, and while we were there, we went over to Switzerland and spent some time with their Tang Soo Do program. And so it's been a great experience. I mean, it's the nice thing. The nice thing is no matter where you go, there might be some language issues and so forth, but it's an open door. I mean, every place that I've been to, I've always felt so welcome and so warm. I mean, I think that's the greatest thing about being with the association. I mean, it's like being at your relatives. It's like being at your families.
Absolutely. I always say, like, especially Worlds, it's like a big family reunion.
Absolutely, yeah,
That was a bummer that didn't happen this year, but
yeah.
there's
Yeah, I think
always
everybody's really disappointed.
fingers crossed that next year you guys will host the nationals.
Yeah, we're hoping, yeah.
You mentioned you went to Texas. Did you get a pair of cowboy boots?
I did not, no. I was, Master Sharp talked about it. I'm not into cowboy boots,
Yeah.
and I just didn't feel, to me, it would have been a big financial waste. I mean,
Right.
because they'd be great to put up on the shelf, but they wouldn't get worn. So I politely turned them down.
It's funny.
So,
I always enjoy. It's like, I know Master Godwin has a pair. Every once in a while I'll be like, "Do you ever wear those boots?"
special occasions.
Yeah, right. um, so let's talk about your studio and like in your family. So obviously we talked about Brian working on the stunt training. I know Bridget is part of the studio as well.
Right.
Could you just talk about kind of having your children grow up in the dojang and how much that kind of means to you and Master Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And we've been very fortunate in that we've never had to force the kids. It's always been we kind of promoted, okay, when they were old enough and ready to start classes, that they would come a couple times a week. But it was their choice. They always had options to do other things, but they liked the martial arts, and they've been training with us since they were 3-4 years old. They both grew up in the studio. I would be teaching class. They would be sitting on the side and watching, and gradually they started kind of mimicking stuff and trying their own kicks and stuff like that. And so it's been a great time for the whole family. It's not only other students, but it's really rewarding to see your own kids progress and mature and develop the skills to communicate and again, we use the term, generically, but, they became leaders, and it's great to see.
Absolutely. How old are they now?
Brian just turned 21 about a month ago. Bridget is 18. So, and there's like I said, Brian still trains. He trains in another style also, a Japanese style. And then he's training with these guys doing all this crazy stunt work and stuff. Bridget trains regularly. She teaches. She helps run the front office, and so she's pretty well rounded and manages things pretty well.
That's excellent. It's always hard to get the teams to try to help out with that. They're good with teaching, but put them up
Well,
front.
and I think for us, one of the nice things about having our kids active, I think to a certain extent helps us keep more of the teenagers active.
Sure.
The teenage years, especially when they get into high school, they get distracted and driving and sports and girls and guys, and so it's sometimes it's a real challenge to keep the high school kids involved.
Right.
And so I think the kids help a lot with that.
That's cool. My daughters are 11 and 9, so I haven't had to deal with that yet.
Not yet.
But I do remember when my oldest tested for her black belt. I'd been through plenty of tests, and that was probably the most nervous I've ever been at a black belt test.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 That, and then the emotional time when they're finally graduating, when you're presenting them with the black belt. It's like, how do you not stand there, with tears in your eyes when you're giving that, that first black belt to your own kids. I mean, it's something else. I mean,
yeah, that I agree. I got the Master Godwin's son Arden tested with my daughter, and so
okay.
It was kind of surreal tying her belt on right next to Master Godwin.
Yeah.
So I know that you and Master Tracy have your own dojangs. Have you ever taught in the same studio? Why do you guys stay separate? You like your own space?
Well, no, actually, we started with the Warrenville school, and we both worked out of that one for a number of years. And I personally never really had visions of having additional schools or a whole series of schools, but an opportunity came up. Mary had just kind of was kind of looking around and checking out other locations and stuff like that, not necessarily with the intent to open up another school, but just to educate on the whole rental process in different areas and so forth. And we got referred to this place. A realtor knew the people that owned the gymnastics place, which is where we're at. And they had an open space. So he just suggested, go and talk to them. And so Mary came and talked to the owners, and they had like a 3,000 square foot open space with this back room. And it just kind of fell in your laps. And so she started this one. I kept going with the Warrenville one, and it's been that way ever since. And we still interchange. I come here and fill in classes and help out with our black belt prep class. Sometimes Mary comes out to my school, and we still do our certified instructor training program together. We do our staff training together. So we're in two separate places, but we're still working everything together and keeping it connected.
You mentioned the certified instructor training. The last time I chatted with her, you guys were doing one on Zoom. Mm-hmm. How'd that go?
Well, we did the one where we had we still do a little bit of Zoom with the CIT. We're trying, now that we're open and can have people in, we're trying to encourage the instructors to come in more. But we did a big one about a month or so, 2 months ago, that went really well. We were really kind of apprehensive. We didn't never done, a big instructor training thing. We'd never done it on Zoom.
Right.
And it went really well. We got a number of instructors from, we got other states, from California, from Minnesota and stuff like that tied into it, and so it went really well. I think everybody got a lot out of it and enjoyed it, and it was a great. It was just great to to connect and share with other parts of the country.
Yeah, it's when I talked to her about it, and again, that's kind of when I think of you guys, I think of once you're doing something, you go for it 100%. And I'm sure there's times where things don't go as well as you'd like.
Absolutely.
It's typically with the energy of the two of you, things seem to go pretty well.
Yeah, we work hard at it. So. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned your regional events. I always see pictures of what's the training bonanza, and then is there another one? There's
we have the training bonanza, we have the extravaganza, we have the spectacular, and they all have kind of different flavors to them. Our extravaganza is really just kind of sharing and training. It doesn't incorporate a tournament, but the spectacular and the extravaganza have the tournament, the black belt testing, and then we do a clinic with it also. And so some of them, I think it's the extravaganza. We do the standard tournament events, so the forms and the weapons and sparring and so forth. But we also incorporate extracurricular competition. So we might do, the highest jump front kick, or we've had padded weapon sparring and things like team sparring and so forth. So we just try and tie other things in there with it. So it's worked pretty well.
I feel like you have to with the names: bonanza, extravaganza, spectacular.
But we've got a great group of schools and instructors in our region that we all work really well together. Everybody's supportive, and so it's gone really well.
Excellent. Is one of your instructors, or has been in the past, Master Perkins? Is he with you guys, or he's got his own thing now?
He has his own program. He teaches at one of the park districts that I started years ago. So he has a pretty good sized program there. Both he's got little kids programs as well as teenagers and adults, and so he's been connected with our school for a long time, but he runs his own program.
So was he with you back before you were with the World Tang Soo Do?
He actually was, because I know it's funny because I was teaching at the YMCA, and he used to come in there and lift weights, and he would walk by our classroom all the time and say hi, but he didn't join us for a while. When he finally joined, it turns out, because when he joined us, we hadn't joined the association yet, so it was pre-1990. But he came to our program, and he had been training when he was in the Air Force. He trained in California under Master Khalid. No, not Master Khalid. Master. I can't remember his name, but there are a couple of instructors from the old days in California, Master Klingen,
Okay.
and stuff, and those guys. And he came and joined us, and we weren't with the association yet. So he made some adjustments to fit in with us.
Mm-hmm.
A few years later, we joined the association, and then he had to shift back, and we had to adjust to the new way of doing things. So, but it went well.
Awesome. There's a couple of questions here. Tom Lyons asked, who's had the most impact on your Tang Soo Do training?
Aside from Grandmaster Shin, probably Master Witten. Master Witten was one of the senior masters in our region. He lived on the Illinois side of St. Louis, so about 3 or 4 hours from here. And we got to be really good friends. He liked to travel, so he would come up here and visit us, maybe once a month. I would go down to his place, in the in-between times, and we would train together. So I got a lot of fine tuning from Master Witten. He was just incredible with forms, and it was just fun traveling and getting to be good friends and so forth. So Grandmaster Shin and Master Witten are probably the two most influential in Tang Soo Do.
Yeah, it's always helpful to have friends that I'm very fortunate to live near, guys like Master Setianto, Master Mabrook every now and then is home.
Okay.
Even Master Godwin, if I ask, he's more than happy to, help me out, teach me a form, help me remember a form.
Yeah, I probably couldn't name anybody other than Master Godwin who is more willing to share than anybody else. I mean, he will share anything, whether it be the martial arts or the business aspect of it and so forth. So, as far as the influence, Master Godwin's got to be right up there with the rest of them. So,
sure. I can't tell you how many people I've met, like I said, through business training before I'd ever had the opportunity, or even ever had the opportunity to train with in the dojang, through all those business things. So let's talk about, when again doing my research. You got your master's belt not long after you joined the association. Is that correct? Or maybe that could have been the Hapkido belt. Maybe I'm.
Well, I think. Wait, I am so terrible with dates.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years after we had joined that I got invited to the Masters Clinic. So, yeah, probably 2 years, maybe 3 years after.
Obviously, back then it was much different than what it is now.
Yeah, it was. I was looking at some pictures not too long ago, and it when I tested, I mean, what the university is like. I mean, we're in a huge gymnasium, and we're packed in there. When I first went, we were in a small, where we used to have our lunch.
Right.
And so everybody fit in there. And so it was, the atmosphere was different. The training was great. But which was a lot more intimate. You were a lot closer together, and you didn't have, what do we have, 300 people attending now?
Yeah. More candidates than you had attendees back then.
Oh yeah. Well, again, when I tested, I think there were 8 of us, 10 of us in the testing group, and now there's 30 plus, just as Sadan candidates.
Right.
So,
you think of some of the names that you tested with back then?
I tested with Master Robinson. Let's see, Ron Raver, Master Raver. Those are the 2 that stick in my mind. So.
That makes sense. They're kind of hard to miss. Master Raver's a big guy, and then Master Robinson's Master Robinson.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Both great guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. So we're doing pretty good on time here. see if I got any more. We kind of touched base on this. A question from Master Chapel in Great Britain. He said, "What made you stick with the Tang Soo Do and move away from the other styles?" And I don't know if you obviously still keep the Hapkido and
Yeah, I still keep the Hapkido active. That's part of our curriculum. Um, and I still keep my hands, in with the judo, partially because part of it is Hapkido also.
right.
But I like the groundwork. So I keep active with both of those. I've kind of faded away from the Taekwondo. The main reason was that my instructors retired, and so my choice was to either stay independent and not have anybody to look to, or get involved in the Tang Soo Do, and at least have some instructors that I could fall back on and so forth. So that's what kind of steered me towards the Tang Soo Do. And there's other areas that I have interest in, but Tang Soo Do and Hapkido keeps me busy. There's always something to learn.
Now, as far as the Hapkido, do you have a separate ranking system from Tang Soo Do?
Yes. Yeah. So we, when they get into the intermediate belts is when we'll start working the Hapkido and start testing them on the Hapkido. And then the way we have it kind of arranged curriculum wise is when they're ready to test for their Chodan in Tang Soo Do, they're about a year away from being ready for their Chodan and Hapkido. Okay. So about usually within a year to a year and a half, they finally test for their Hapkido. And then you turn right around and, another year or half a year, they're, if they're training consistently, they should be ready or pretty close to ready to test for their second dan in Tang Soo Do. So we have it set up so that it kind of leapfrogs itself and just works its way up. And then once they get into the Hapkido and get their black belt in Hapkido, then we start introducing the Sinmu Hapkido and the Sinmu kicks and so forth.
Yeah, that's a smart idea to kind of not do them together. I remember when I got both my Tang Soo Do and my Hapkido black belt at the same time, and
yeah, you get beat up, don't you?
It was a lot. So we talked earlier about Grandmaster Shin, and I know that with the different bonanzas and extravaganzas, you had some opportunities to spend some time with Grandmaster Bodwin, and possibly Grandmaster Strong too. You can let me know as well. Could you share some memories about Grandmaster Bodwin as well?
Well, at our events, we had Grandmaster Bodwin here for one event.
Okay.
So we didn't have as many opportunities, for our local stuff.
Sure.
And so I probably, from the event end of it, he was just great to talk to, and always very, very informative and so forth. But I'd say Grandmaster Bodwin was probably, from my perspective, was a little bit more reserved than Grandmaster Shin. Grandmaster Shin seemed to be more open and he would start the conversation. Not that Grandmaster Bodwin wouldn't, but I probably didn't get to know Grandmaster Bodwin as well as Grandmaster Shin.
Sure.
But he was always great to be with, and yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, the knowledge is just unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All of them.
Yoshioda asked, what was the topic for your 7th Dan thesis?
I had two projects for my 7th Dan. The first one we actually did at the Master's Clinic. So we were taken separate from the rest of the groups, put through a few things physically, and then our assignment for that evening was to go down on the testing floor while the candidates were being tested, and evaluate their attitude, their behavior, um, not only theirs, but watch the panels also, and kind of get some perspective. And then we had to write just a little report on what we observed during the test process. And then from there, after that was over, I was asked to write about the succession process. So, you know, I don't have a corporate background, so I've never been exposed to that whole, you know, succession plan and so forth. So it's been a bit of a challenge for me to figure out how to word that and kind of tie it in with the association. But basically to talk about or to write about succession planning and how to carry on your legacy when you're gone.
Yeah. Did you get to work at all with the group that's been doing the planning for the association?
I have not. No, I'm not. I have not been a part of that.
Gotcha. I thought maybe that those could have intertwined.
No, that might have been nice. I might have gotten more information.
I can reach out and then give you some more work.
There you go.
I'm sure they'd be happy to have you. Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the hour mark. So to wrap up, Yoshi made me think of this. Do you have any advice? Obviously, I know Yoshi was supposed to go to the Master's Clinic this year. Do you have any advice for the people that are either supposed to be first year candidates or second year candidates to keep continuing and stay focused and you know?
Boy, well, you know, I think.
Or just people in general, you know, being someone, what's kept you motivated in the, you know, the
all these years?
All these years.
You know, I think, and it's to each individual, but for me, it's probably the biggest thing is just striving or pushing myself to try and be just a little bit better. Okay. Physically better, and in any other area. I mean, one of my weaknesses, and that's why I was somewhat apprehensive about the whole interview aspect of it, is I'm not a big speaker. I'm not a big communicator. You know, to put me in front of a group and ask me to speak about bully busting, you know, for kids at school would be like beads of sweat dripping down my face. To put me in front of a karate class or a hapkido class or a judo class, there's nothing to that. I mean, that's my area, and I feel comfortable with that. So to be able to communicate better and share more, you know, from that perspective is a challenge for me, and that's one area that I'm continually or always having to push myself more into. So for me, you know, to get better at that, to get better at my skills, and there's always more to learn. I mean, you know, you've got different forms, different weapons. You know, hapkido is limitless. There's other areas of other martial arts that I would love to experience. Unfortunately, they're not available in the Chicagoland area. So, you know, you keep pushing yourself and working hard, and don't let the roadblocks like this whole, you know, COVID craziness, you know, don't let that, it's going to slow you down a little bit, but don't let it, you know, put a major roadblock in there and stop you. I mean, you can get around it, and you know, everybody's going to encounter hardships and, you know, injuries and things that throw your timeline off base a little bit. Just strive to hang in there and work your way through it, and you'll get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. I agree with that. It's funny you say that. Pretty much every person I've talked to kind of says the same thing. It's like, oh, I don't like talking in front of people. It's like I get nervous. And I'm with you there. It's funny. Master Setyanto I had talked about doing stuff like this for a while, and then Master Setyanto started it. He interviewed me, and I still get nervous, and it's not the most comfortable thing for me, but what I like about it is that I get to share the story of other people, and I get to put that out there for other people to see, because I think that a lot of the instructors in our association have great experiences and stories to share.
Sure.
So I kind of push that fear and nervousness to the side and just remember that, people enjoy listening to the stories of others. So that's how I get over that.
Cool.
Because I'm with you. Talking to a big group like that, the bully stuff at schools, I can do it.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather be at the dojang.
Yeah. Well, and for me, and this is one of the things that Mary and I are always kind of bantering back and forth. Is, my comfort zone is on the floor teaching class. Okay, I don't particularly necessarily want to be in the office having to talk to all the parents. I know that that's part of what I have to do, and I do it. But if I had a choice, we know where I'm going to be. So.
Same here. I'm the same exact way. I'll get it done.
Oh yeah.
I'd much rather teach class.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, again, Master Jansa, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, taking the time out.
My pleasure.
Is there anything else you want to share, or any thank yous, shout outs?
Well, just thank you to you for inviting me. And then just hi to everybody that came on, and glad you joined us.
I have the Tracy Jansa set now. There
you go.
You're actually the first husband and wife that I've interviewed.
Okay.
I'm going to interview Master Don Khan next week, and
okay.
I interviewed Master Khan about a month ago. So
good, cool,
awesome. Well, thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you at Master's Clinic next year.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, definitely.
U.S. Nationals.
Sounds good.
All right.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
Tang Soo.
All right, Tang Soo.